You know the feeling, right? You're stuck on hold forever. You're dealing with an employee who has no idea what's going on, or you get something that looks nothing like what was advertised. It is just infuriating. But what if I told you there's a secret framework that explains exactly why that stuff happens, and more importantly, how to fix it? Okay, let's dive into a masterclass on the science of service.
To get us started, I want to ask a pretty simple question about a company we all know. Is Apple a product company? I mean, the obvious answer is yes, of course. They make iPhones, MacBooks, all that incredible hardware. But maybe that's not the whole story.
The real answer? Apple is actually a service company. I mean, think about it for a second. The App Store, iCloud, Apple Music, the Genius Bar. The iPhone itself is basically just a beautifully designed container for the services that you need to run your life. The product is just the ticket to the show. And this isn't just an Apple thing. This shift, it's happening everywhere.
And that brings us to this huge and kind of invisible reality. We don't really live in a manufacturing economy anymore. We live and breed in a service economy. It is the invisible engine powering just about everything we do.
Just take a look at this. It's pretty staggering. Over 80% of the entire U.S. economy is driven by services. Things like finance, government, professional services, they absolutely dwarf manufacturing. This isn't some small trend, it's a complete transformation of how our world works. And that's why understanding services and why they so often go wrong is such an essential skill today.
So, if services are so important, why is it so hard to get them right? Well, it's because they are just fundamentally different from physical goods. You can return a toaster that doesn't work, no problem. But you can't exactly return a bad haircut, can you? And that one difference is the key to, well, everything.
So what really makes services so different? It all boils down to 4 key concepts. And I'll admit the names, intangibility, heterogeneity, simultaneous production, and perishability, they sound a little academic. But trust me, once you get these 4 ideas, you'll understand the root cause of almost every single service headache you've ever had.
First up, we have intangibility. Simply put, you can't touch a service. You can't hold a legal consultation. You can't put a college lecture in your pocket. A service is a performance, not an object. And because of that, it's really hard to know what you're going to get before you pay for it. This is exactly why we rely so much on things like online reviews or word of mouth. We're all just looking for some tangible clues about an intangible thing.
Next up is heterogeneity, which is just a fancy word for inconsistency. Think about it. 1,000 iPhones coming off an assembly line are pretty much identical. But services? Most are delivered by human beings. And because of that, no 2 service experiences are ever exactly the same. The amazing barista who knows your order on Monday might be having a really off day on Tuesday. And managing that human variable, it's one of the biggest challenges there is.
Then we have this idea of simultaneous production and consumption. A car can be built in one city and sold months later in another. But a flight from New York to LA, it's being produced and consumed at the exact same time. And you're sitting right there in the middle of the factory. That means you, the customer, are actually part of the service process, which, as you can imagine, makes things a little complicated. And finally, perishability. Services can't be stockpiled. They can't be put on a shelf and saved for a rainy day. As soon as a plane takes off with an empty seat, the chance to make money from that seat is gone, forever. You can't put it in inventory. This is why you see airlines and hotels with these incredibly complex pricing models. They're desperately trying to manage demand in real time.
Okay, so services are tricky. We get it. They're intangible, they're inconsistent, they disappear if you don't use them. So how do the great companies actually manage all this chaos? Well, they can't use the old marketing rulebook. They need a bigger, better toolkit.
For decades, Marketing 101 was all about the 4 Ps: product, price, place, and promotion. And that's totally fine if you're selling soap. But for services, it's completely incomplete. To really get it right, you've got to add 3 new Ps to the mix: people, process, and physical evidence.
Let's break these down real quick. People isn't just the employees, it's also you, the customer, and even the other customers around you. You know how a loud table next to you can ruin a great meal? That's the people P. Physical evidence is everything you can see and touch: the design of a hotel lobby, the cleanliness of the bathroom. It gives you physical clues about the quality. And finally, process. That's the step-by-step flow of how everything happens. A smooth process feels amazing, a clunky one is pure frustration.
So, we have these new tools, people, process, and physical evidence to handle all the weirdness of services. But even with the right tools, things still go wrong. A lot. And this brings us right to the core question. What is the single root cause of all bad service?
And hey, it's not just you being grumpy. This is a widespread feeling. Year after year, consumers report that service quality just isn't great. Big business magazines have literally run cover stories asking, why service stinks? So what is really going on here?
And here it is, the root of every single service failure, from a tiny annoyance to a complete catastrophe, all comes down to this one idea: the customer gap. It is the space between what you expected to happen and what you perceived actually happened. When your perception falls short of your expectation, you are dissatisfied. The entire goal of any service company is to close that gap.
But close the gap is way easier said than done. How do you actually do it? Well, the customer gap doesn't just pop into existence. It's caused by 4 other hidden gaps happening inside the company. And if you can learn to spot these, you can understand any service failure. First up, there's the listening gap. This one is a classic. It's when the company just has no clue what its customers actually want. Maybe they aren't doing the right research, or maybe the executives are just too disconnected from the front lines to hear what's really going on. They're flying blind.
Second, we have the service design and standards gap. This one's tricky. The company might actually know what you want, but they failed to build the right systems to deliver it. Maybe their process is super confusing, or they haven't set clear quality standards for their employees. They heard you, but they drew up a bad blueprint.
Third is the service performance gap. Okay, so in this case, the blueprint is perfect, the plan is solid, but the execution on the front lines completely falls apart. Maybe employees don't have the right training or the right tools, or they're just not motivated. This is where a great plan on paper crashes into messy reality.
And finally, the communication gap. This is when the marketing department writes checks that the service team can't cash. They promise you the moon in their ads, but what they actually deliver is, well, not the moon. They overpromised. And now, even if the service is okay, it feels like a letdown.
And this is how it all fits together. You can see how those 4 provider gaps, listening, design, performance, and communication, all add up to create that one big customer gap you experience. The secret to amazing service is to just systematically hunt down and close each of these 4 internal gaps. That's the master key.
But here's the best part. This isn't just some boring theory for managers. You can use this gaps model as a new lens to look at the world. It's like having a superpower that lets you diagnose what's going right or wrong with every restaurant, every website, and every customer support call you ever have.
So, I'll leave you with a challenge. The next time you have an amazing service experience, or a truly terrible one, just stop for a second and ask yourself, can you spot the gap? Did they fail to listen, fail to design, fail to perform, or fail to communicate? Once you start seeing the gaps, you'll never look at service the same way again.